Greetings, live from Costa Rica. My name is Matt Rosensteel. I'm here today with two recent arrivals, Dan and Sandra, who have joined us here in the community of Playa Junquillal, which is where me and my wife live. Dan and Sandra have offered to take some time and talk to us about their experience in moving to Costa Rica, to provide a testimonial, to help other people who are thinking about moving down, and really sort of give any advice that you think might be able to help people. So thank you very much for your time, and also thank you very much for your trust in working with us to purchase this condo here, 2-bedroom, 2-bath in Las Brisas del Mar, Playa Junquillal, one of the few titled beachfront condominium projects in all of Costa Rica. Anyhow, welcome. Thank you very much for joining me.
It's always welcome. Great to spend time with you, Matt. Thanks.
We've had a great time developing our relationship, I think over 7 or 8 months.
Yes,
right.
Yes.
From first making contact and to recently closing on your condo just a week ago. They've come down for their first visit and actually saw the condo for the first time after closing, which was a giant leap of faith on your part. And anyhow, you're here. You've been here a week. And today's topic for Costa Rica FAQ is talking about Costa Rica beachfront living here with Dan and Sandra, getting their opinions, tips, really just finding out more, because it turns out I don't know everything, and my perspective isn't 100% of what people to know. So I'm glad to have yours today. To get started, how about would you please tell us a bit about your story, starting with your initial idea, the dream, maybe we should move to Costa Rica, to right now.
Shall I start?
Yeah.
All right. So we first came down here about 3 years ago with some neighbors of ours, Pam and Mike, dear friends, that had a friend that had a place up in Playa Junquillal, and stayed up there. And it was kind of a ritzy kind of area, but lovely. We just fell in love with the country, and of course we wanted to get off property and go and find like local places, which we did. That was our first trip. Wanted to come back for whatever reason. I felt the locals were so friendly. Came back a second time with our sons and stayed down here near Tamarindo, surfing town. Dan does surf. Stayed down in Playa Langosta, beautiful little place that we rented out. Could walk into Tamarindo. Once again, just a great trip. For whatever reason, wanted to come back.
Yeah.
We just wanted to come back. Trip number 3, and so in February, Dan and I came down here, and prior to that, we contacted you because we said we think we want to look at a couple places, not knowing what our journey was, where, what. So, met up with you. You showed us places in Tamarindo, showed us places in Playa Langosta. We kind of said we don't want to be that close to Tamarindo. We kind of would rather be further out. Had never heard of Junquillal. I remember getting in your car with you, Matt, and saying, we're going to John Kilo today, right? So came out here, looked at a couple of places, and then saw this place. And for me, I looked at Dan and I said, this is it. This is it. So that's my story.
Yep.
Yeah, for me, I really love the country. Some of the things that they stand for, it's a little different than living in the U.S. There's less emphasis on how much stuff you have. There's more emphasis on kind of a different value system, such as education, health, interacting with the community, volunteer work, things like that, where in our country it's all about work and consumption. So it's just something about the area that kind of drew me in. And then the outdoor life. We love being outdoors, and where we live in the Northeast, part of the year you have to work out in the gym, be inside. So down here it's like you can be outside year-round, active, walking, swimming, biking, hiking, all kinds of things. So, and then the other thing is we're fortunate at this stage in our lives that we can work for a U.S. company while living in Costa Rica. So things just lined up, and we thought this was the right time, given that all of our kids are grown. We're not quite ready to retire, so we need to still work. And so this seemed to be an opportunity to kind of immerse ourselves and come down.
Okay.
So.
It's a great balance of sort of the real reasons you should move to a place. You know, Costa Rica, I think, provides people that dream of a really peaceful, tranquil, wholesome place to live where they care about health and education, like you said. But also the infrastructure that isn't quite as... it makes living here a lot easier than going off to the absolute end of the earth.
Right.
For example, in this particular condo complex, you're about to have fiber optic internet.
Right.
And many places here in Costa Rica have that. So I'm really jealous of people who can work for U.S. companies and have that opportunity, living here in this absolute paradise, but also being able to access the labor market in the U.S. is really awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you talk about a U.S. company, and part of the process of us looking and finding you. Back home, we had recently done 2 real estate transactions, and we were working with Coldwell Banker up there, and we absolutely love our realtor back home, Tony. He's been a great resource for us in helping us through that process.
Yeah.
So that brand, whenever I started looking in Costa Rica, I had no idea where to start. I mean, we looked at ABC Rental, but we just couldn't associate. Then we came across Coldwell Banker, and I think we started with one of your colleagues down in Samara. And we figured that was a little too far from the airport.
Yep.
She referred us up to you, and that's when the relationship began to develop. And it really has been a tremendous relationship, and that's important to us, just like back home. It isn't always about just the deal. You want to know somebody that understands the area, understands the market, understands, how things work. And this is very different than back home.
Yeah.
And you took time to answer probably 200 or 300 questions we're constantly asking you, but it helped us get comfortable.
Yeah, it's one question, for an investment and for such a big move, you really have to ask that many questions. And as someone working here in real estate, I thought exactly that way, that people transitioning to life down here, they look for these stepping stones, and Coldwell Banker or a major real estate brokerage is one of those ways that people begin to feel comfortable and capable of making this transition, because for a lot of people, just Googling, Costa Rica real estate or, how can I move to Costa Rica would be absolutely really intimidating and probably not workable. But with a name like Coldwell Banker, Remax is also here, that can facilitate people feeling, more comfortable with the process and having somewhere to go. So great shout out to both my colleague, Tony, and also my colleague in Samara, who referred you guys up here, Carly, who's actually since moved on. She decided to go back to the U.S. But anyhow, it's a great example of how the network can help and land you in a place that you want to be, instead of sort of throwing you out into the wilderness. Going from one person to the next, to be able to feel like you've got some continuity. So
I'd also add, you were very helpful in answering our questions. But another great resource that I did take the time to go through were your other videos, where they're kind of topical. It's like, okay, what are the taxes down here? How does this sale work? There's nuances about how business is done here that's different than the U.S. And you don't always get access to a person, but those videos, you can play them as many times as you want, make your notes, and kind of work through your plan, and that also helped a lot. So
awesome.
plug to that too. That was helpful.
I'm glad they were helpful. Yeah. Super. If you're watching on YouTube, you can follow the playlist Costa Rica FAQ. If you're watching on Facebook, you can like our Latitude 10 Facebook page, and I'll also put the link to the YouTube channel, and it's really just meant to be exactly that, sort of an easy reference library. What are the closing costs? here's me jabbering on about the closing costs and, trying to at least present as much information as possible. So I'm glad those were helpful to you. So let's talk about your first experience. You just arrived a week ago in Costa Rica for the, the fourth trip, or fifth trip, but you're first here in the condo. How has it been? What do you think about living here in a beachfront titled condo?
Well, we're leaving tomorrow, and I could cry right now if I think about it too much. First of all, it's crazy because, there are 18 units here, right? And we're the only people down here right now. It's considered the rainy season, although we've had a little rain, but today we were out on the beach and at the pool. It has not rained. It's been a gorgeous day. So, it's been just being relaxing. Just, looking at flowers and I think we saw 2 people today on the beach, and listening to the birds, but also feeling very safe and secure. We have Jonathan, our caretaker, who I hear him in the background sweeping something. So he's always here somewhere. So it's a very safe feeling, and I don't know. Yeah, it's been. Dan has said to me, "You're awfully quiet." It's like I'm just living. I'm just taking it in. So it's been wonderful.
Yeah.
For me, I arrived a little bit early because, as Matt said, we did not see this property before we purchased it. We saw it through pictures that Matt provided and a video, and then we knew that we were going to need to do some renovations to this place. And again, kind of to your network, you put us in touch with Doug Stern, who has done a lot of projects in this area. We connected before I came down. When I got here, met with him, we kind of started working on our to-do list. And for me, seeing the place, coming from the States, we got so much stuff in our homes back home. This was very sparse. It didn't have air conditioning. It didn't have furniture. It had a bed, and I just remember laying there the first night, and something was tapping on the window while I was sleeping. And I've since figured out we've got a resident raccoon here, and I think he's kind of tapping on the window to see if he can get in.
Oh, absolutely.
But it's very different, but that was a great way to start. It was just very minimalistic, keep it simple, and then working with Doug, he said, "What's your priority?" And I said, before Sandra gets here, I want to get the air conditioner installed. And you hear a lot of people talk about, well, nothing happens quick in Costa Rica. Doug made it happen. He got the air conditioning installed ahead of Sandra showing up, and just those little things kind of made it a little more bearable. But it was a great way to start.
I wouldn't say bearable.
Well, I do. It was very hot and humid the first few days.
For the context of the interview, this property was a fixer-upper. This was not in move-in ready condition.
We knew, yes.
And but
we also got a great deal as a result of that.
Absolutely. Yes. It was reflected in the price. And definitely you guys have taken on something, but I think that adventure is something that Costa Rica offers a lot of people to minimize your life, sort of
Absolutely.
Check out of your enormous amount of stuff that you have in your huge house in the U.S. or Canada, Europe, wherever, simplify, and also sort of start from scratch and, spend a few nights without air conditioning or go to a really lousy hostel in, a national park and get back to sort of this roughing it lifestyle. And it's fun. It brings a little bit of flavor back to life.
Yep.
You don't feel quite like you're just comfortable and going to follow the exact same routine every day. It's like, now we're going to figure out how to get coffee going, and tomorrow it's the grill, and, on and on.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, some of the advice that I got from one of the people in the community, he said, you need to be patient. And it is so true. It's where in the U.S. it's all about speed and efficiency and getting things either that day or the next day. Just look at what Amazon is doing in the U.S. You don't want to come down here and have that attitude here. It will not help you. If things aren't working, smile, be nice, don't get frustrated. It goes a lot further. And things will get done. It's just on a different time scale. That's all. But
Yep.
that's okay.
And that's another thing. We have been, working with Doug and knowing we want to do some renovations. We have been out and about in Wacas and Santa Cruz and different areas where we've walked into stores. We don't speak Spanish, and I wish it's something that we do want to do. Certainly want to learn it because I think that would help tremendously. But we would walk into places and they didn't speak any English. And yet they still were willing to work with us. Yeah. And thanks to things like Google Translator, we could ask them the questions that we wanted to ask. And so
you make it work.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So you've made it so far without Spanish. Mm-hmm. And that sort of brings on the next topic. I'm sure a lot of expats considering coming down are thinking, do I need to know Spanish? And they're also asking 200, 300 questions. After going through this process to where you are now, do you have certain things, advice, salient points that you think may, that you didn't understand or that was a surprise to you coming in that you would help other people with?
Yeah, I had a few. I mean, one thing, like back home, we're so used to doing transactions on our own. I mean, whether we're buying a car or buying a condo or buying a house, or working with our banks or retailers or any of that, it is very different down here. And so one of the things is you want to develop a relationship with a lawyer, and you put us in touch with Gabrielle at P&D. Mm-hmm. I can't say enough. We met him and his colleague Jose Silva. Just fantastic people to work with. They take the time to help you understand in English their system and how it works, why they do the things the way they do it. So yeah, simple things like that. Because we got an email from the association about a new form. It was a lot of information. And we sat down with Gabrielle. He explained it all in about 10 minutes.
Yep.
And he had all the paperwork ready. We signed it. We're done.
Mm-hmm.
And so that connection, and I asked Doug, I know what you think of Gabrielle, but just kind of verifying what people thought of Gabrielle, and they speak very highly of him and his team. So that's something that, we don't typically deal with back in the U.S. So even setting up a bank account, I'm going to have to go through Gabrielle. And he gave me 3 or 4 ways to think about the money and how to set up the, buying refrigerators and stuff like that we're going to do here, how to move money from the U.S. to here, what's the easiest way. And so little nuances that they can give you some great advices and some shortcuts to kind of help you get things rolling while you get established. So, yeah. Mm-hmm. So
the lawyer is a critical part of the process, and I think if there's any obstacle to moving to Costa Rica, one of the greatest has to be the lack of numerous great lawyers here. Mm-hmm. There are very few, and you hear lots of foreigners who come and are extremely frustrated. The level of professionalism among many people in the industry can be way below what you expect in the U.S. or Canada. And there are some downright shysters, people
Well, there
who
are everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Here, a lot of times, because you're plunging into the unknown, you have no idea whether the other person on the other side of the table, where they fall. And so finding a recommended lawyer among your realtor, other people that you trust in Costa Rica, is such a critical step that can determine happiness or frustration in the process of closing and everything that you do here. And Gabriel Chavez at P&D in Tamarindo, I feel very lucky to have him as sort of a team member who helps me.
Absolutely.
Because I send people over there and say just meet with him, and he does take that time. One of the things that you see a lot here, or used to see in Costa Rica, were foreigners buying with little to no understanding of the documents they were signing. It was sort of the Wild West where, hey, you're closing on this house today, sign here, sign here, sign here. Not really going into that detail, but just trying to get the transfer deed signed and done. So I really am happy that you guys had that experience with them.
As are we. Yes.
Yep.
I think another thing that I've learned in working with Doug the past couple of weeks is we take a lot for granted in the U.S. when it comes to products and appliances. You know, we can go to a Home Depot and you've got all kinds of options, or to a Lowe's, and you could take it home that day. Down here, because the scale of the country is much smaller than the U.S., the products that are available are a lot different. And I think it's important, or at least what I've learned, you know, I want this, I want this, I want this. Yet Doug is like, you need to be open to what we have available here. And so listening to him, his local knowledge of the different stores that have products and have owners that back those products up, that he's worked with over the years. It's about, again, he has relationships that I don't. So that's another thing that I've learned, you know, to kind of step back and let him manage that relationship, and I benefit from it. So very different than the U.S.
Yeah,
So.
absolutely. And having that realistic expectation set by somebody, I think across all services here in Costa Rica, we see a lot of pushback where people don't want to accept the expectation, and that can create, you know, frustration, all kinds of issues. And really, you're doing a great job listening to Doug and his advice, because he does have that extensive network, the experience of so many years where, you know, I've got so many stories from when I was first here as a volunteer that people would be telling me not to do something, or, you know, to do something differently, and I would stubbornly not listen, whether it was digging a hole or, you know, doing something really simple. And I'd feel like, no, I can hold this shovel better than, you know, some. You really just need to accept people's advice in a lot of circumstances, especially here.
Exactly.
Any tips, sort of ideas for people thinking about moving?
Tips. Not really, but I do want to, you know, to what Dan said, you know, in terms of like getting things down here, like it's not the variety that is in the States, but it is the quality. I mean, we're getting GE appliances in our kitchen, you know, and I mean, it's so, not to say that you just can't get everything. Yeah.
Oh yeah, they've got good products. You're
Yes,
right. Yeah.
yes, I'm excited. I mean, it's definitely, you know, in terms of, I'm like, window treatments and things like that, you know, that's
Lamps.
where exactly.
There are 4 or 5 lamps in the entire country.
Right, right.
You know.
But it's okay. We're gonna figure. You know, we've also in driving around, I've seen these local, like, you know, art shops. It's like a little home where they're creating art, or so we will find things to make this house our home. But
Totally.
It'll take time, and it's not going to Pier 1 in one day and look at this. You know?
Exactly. Look at these stylish tchotchkes that all have the same color theme and, you know, fit perfectly with the boudoir I just purchased.
Correct. But that's also not what we're looking for down here. Right. So, you know.
Yeah, I think if anything sums up the Costa Rica experience, you know, we've talked about your original impression with the country, where you felt that the people were very friendly.
Yes.
That this was going to be a lifestyle based on not quite as much consumption and all of this, you know, really driven about showing how much you have, on and on. Really, you guys have had an experience where you've come to Costa Rica for the right reasons that Costa Rica can actually deliver on. You didn't come to find the perfect appliances.
No.
And make your beautiful, you know, so really, I think that if anything, people should learn from you that this kind of attitude creates smiles at the end of the day. It's people who are ready to handle Costa Rica and really enjoy something special, like living on the beach, even if you can't have that stainless steel 6-burner range that's got an extra electronic start, you know. So really, you have the right thought and your heart's in the right place, and so no matter what, you're definitely gonna love it here. I'm sure there will be plenty of, you know, little bumps and fun things along the way. It'll be fun to continue helping you as you manage those. But I really am glad that, one, you trusted me and that we're here today. It's a huge pleasure, and it's been great both developing the relationship and now sitting here in your condo on the porch enjoying something special. And it's also, I really am happy that you're here for the right reasons, that you're seeing all of this come to fruition. So thank you very much for everything, Dan and Sandra. I'm sure that people might have questions for you, or they might have questions and follow-up for me. Feel free to email me at matt@cbtamarindo.com. I'm more than happy to help. Again, huge thanks to you for all your comments, your insight, and all the helpful tidbits. Live from Costa Rica, we're going to sign off here in Playa Junquillal, Santa Cruz, Guanacaste. Las Brisas del Mar, titled beachfront condominiums, I should not forget to mention. Currently, we have 2 exclusively listed through Coldwell Banker Tamarindo Realty. One on the actually, they're both on the second floor. One 1,300 square feet, that's listed for $290,000, and another on the second floor at 1,600 square feet, listed at $325,000. So if you want to live this and come here and spend your days on a porch right in front of the ocean, this is the emotional pitch I should have done right at the beginning, not after we've talked this much. If you want this, send us an email. We're more than happy to help you. I'm sure Dan and Sandy would be more than happy to greet you here in Las Brisas del Mar in Junquillal.
Absolutely. And you do want this, trust me.
Great. Excellent. Well, with that, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Yeah.
Mwah.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Matt. Yes.
Pleasure.